Hello children, I hope you are making the best out of this time. So, today we will learn something new. I'll begin with the first chapter of political science, that is the Constitution of India. Let's see why is Constitution so very important and what are the different aspects and articles of the Indian Constitution. Constitution of India. What is a constitution? A constitution is a set of laws according to which a country is governed. A set of laws are mentioned in the constitution and the country is governed accordingly. Now, what are laws? Laws are a set of rules and regulations. So, constitution can also be called the guidelines of laws. And why a guideline of laws? Because all the laws are mentioned in the constitution and the country is governed accordingly. Our constitution came into force on January 26, 1950, and this day is celebrated as Republic Day. Our constitution came into force on 26 January 1950 and this day is declared as Republic Day. Now, I tell you something very interesting. Why 26 January 1950 has been chosen as the Republic Day? Though the Indian Constitution was formed on 26 November 1949, but the Constituent Assembly, that is, the body which framed the Indian Constitution, decided to implement or to enforce the Indian Constitution on 26 January 1950. Why? Because 26 January 1930 had been declared as Independence Day by the Congress. This day was declared as the day of Poon Swaraj or complete independence. However, we could not attain independence on that day. So, to keep the importance and relevance of the day, we decided to enforce the Indian Constitution as on 26 January 1950. So, I hope you are clear with the word Constitution. Constitution is also called a guideline of laws, and laws are a set of rules and regulations. Then I discussed that our constitution came into force on January 26, 1950. This day is celebrated as Republic Day. Now, why was it implemented on 26 January 1950? This is because 26 January 1930 was declared as the day of Poon Swaraj or complete independence by the Congress. However, we failed to attain independence on that day, and to keep the relevance of the day, we decided to enforce our constitution on 26 January 1950. Now, we celebrate January 26 as Republic Day every year. Now, what is preamble? Preamble is an introduction to the Constitution. Preamble is an introduction or an introductory part of the Constitution. It has certain key words which are very important and which reflect the values of the Indian Constitution and the values of our country. So, before discussing the various terms of the preamble, as I told you, the Indian Constitution was formed on 26 November 1949, but it was enforced on 26 January 1950. And this day, 26 January, is known as Republic Day. So, what do you mean by the word Republic? Republic means there is no hereditary king. There is no hereditary king means that in India, elections are held regularly, that is, after every 5 years. So, Republic is now often called the antonym of monarchy. Because in monarchy there is a hereditary king, but in republic there is no hereditary king. In fact, there is a ruler who is elected by the people regularly after every 5 years. So, the word republic means there is no hereditary king. We choose our representatives regularly. Now, what do you mean by socialist? Socialist mean the wealth must be equally distributed. Now, wealth must be equally distributed, but how? It is the responsibility of the government to distribute the wealth equally, and to ensure this, the government taxes rich more and poor less. You must have heard about the different income tax slabs, the different tax rates. These have been there to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. It is necessary to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor so that there are no economic inequalities. Economic inequalities often lead to social inequalities. Economic inequalities mean someone is very rich and someone is very poor. Now, there is always fear that the ultra-rich people of the society exploit the poor people, and to avoid all this, India has embraced the term socialism. Socialist mean the government will take some steps to ensure that the wealth is equally distributed. Our Indian government takes so many measures to ensure that the poor also rise above the poverty line. So many schemes have been launched by the government in recent times. For example, Manrega. India is a secular country. Secular country means there is no official religion. We have right to freedom of religion. We can practice any religion of our choice, or we can say that we do not practice any religion. We are allowed to do so. However, the government interferes in our religious practices if they violate or infringe a fundamental right. For example, if a woman is forced to commit sati in the name of religion, then the government is allowed to interfere to prevent such an evil and heinous practice of sati. So, the Indian Constitution does not allow the government to interfere in our religious practices unless they violate a fundamental right. So, we have freedom of religion. We can practice any religion of our choice. We can profess any religion of our choice. Or we can say that we do not practice any religion. India, unlike other countries, has not been labeled. There are various countries who have been labeled as Islamic nations because Islam is their official religion. Even Sri Lanka declared Buddhism as their official religion. There is no official religion in India. Now, sovereign. Sovereign means no external power can dictate us on internal and external matters. We can make decisions on our internal and external matters. Nobody else, no external power shall tell us what to do, what not to do on our internal and external matters. India has once been under the domination of the Britishers. Earlier, it was the East India Company which dictated India, and then the power shifted to the British Crown and India was dictated. We did not have the freedom to decide to make policies on our internal and external powers, on our internal and external matters. However, now India is a sovereign nation. That means we can make decision on our internal and external matters. Fraternity. Fraternity is feeling and sense of brotherhood. This is so very important to treat all our fellow men with equal respect. Nobody should be considered inferior because in long run it is detrimental for democracy. It may lead to bloodshed, it may lead to destruction, it may lead to disintegration of the nation. So it is to be ensured that there is sense of fraternity among the people. Fraternity means sense of brotherhood. We don't have to treat our fellow men, our fellow humans inferiorly. Now, the next is liberty. Liberty means there should not be unreasonable restrictions. There are no unreasonable restrictions in our nation. We have right of speech, expression. We can express our ideas. Even we can express our ideas against the government, but by peaceful means. Media, which is said to be the fourth pillar of the democracy, it often criticizes the government and helps the government to improve. This is because we have no unreasonable restrictions. We have the freedom to practice any occupation of our choice. We can gather in peaceful manner. There is no unreasonable restriction. Equality. Equality means everyone is equal in the eyes of law. The law does not discriminate on the basis of religion, caste, creed, place of birth, etc. And the Lady Justice is an important symbol which is shown blindfolded to ensure that the decision, the verdict shall not be influenced by caste, creed, place of birth, religion, gender, etc. So, equality is important and it is coined in the preamble of India, which means everyone is equal in the eyes of law. The law does not discriminate on the basis of religion, caste, creed, etc. Now, justice. Justice means social inequalities have to be removed and they must be removed. The government should work for the upliftment and welfare of all, especially disadvantaged groups. Government has to work for the upliftment and welfare of the disadvantaged groups. And so the government often comes up with the policies to help the disadvantaged groups. Like the government has come up with schools to provide free education to the students. The government has also come up with the schemes like free midday meal to meet the nutritional requirement of the students and also to improve their attendance, thus ensuring education to one and all. Today, we will learn the fundamental rights. First of all, what are rights? Rights are the favorable conditions. Favorable means morally correct, which are recognized by the society and sanctioned by the law. These are the favorable conditions which are recognized by the society and sanctioned by law. And the fundamental rights are those favorable conditions which are so very necessary for the overall development of the citizen and society as a whole. And so they are recognized by society and sanctioned by law. Now, we will learn about the fundamental rights. The first one is right to equality. Right to equality means everyone is equal in the eyes of law. As I discussed the term equality as coined in preamble. So everyone is equal in the eyes of law. No one is discriminated on the basis of religion, caste, creed, place of birth, etc. All citizens have equal job opportunities when it comes to government jobs. I give you an example. In Sri Lanka, earlier there were Sinhala speakers who used to speak Sinhala language. Only they were favored for government jobs and university positions. This is not so in case of India. All citizens have equal job opportunities when it comes to government jobs. You are not discriminated on the basis of religion, caste, language you speak, or any other ground. However, there are certain seats which are reserved for ST, SC and OBC. And this is because they have been discriminated for so many years. And since they have been discriminated for so many years, like they have been denied right to education. So, to compensate for all those years, certain seats are reserved for them so that they also merge with the mainstream society. You know who is the architect of the Constitution of India, or who was the chairman of the drafting committee who made the Indian Constitution? It was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. B.R. Ambedkar also belonged to lower caste and he was also discriminated. He was made to sit on the ground, means on the floor, while others were made to sit in the on the chairs. As a result, he suffered lot of mental trauma, and there had been many who suffered lot of mental trauma just because they belong to the lower caste. Caste system has been a great challenge, and it's an evil which is common to India, and hence many have been discriminated on the basis of caste system, and they have been denied certain rights which the upper caste people have been given, and hence they have become economically and socially backward. To compensate for all those years they have been discriminated, they have been denied certain rights, seats are reserved for them so that they also merge with the mainstream society. Now, untouchability is a serious offense. In earlier times, untouchability was practiced. What is untouchability? Again, its root cause is the caste system. People of lower caste were considered untouchables. They were not allowed to draw water from the wells. They were not allowed to enter the temples because it was thought that if they enter the temples or if they draw water from the well, a few drops which are drawn by them would pollute the well. They were considered pollutants. So this was a serious discrimination, of course, which affected them mentally, economically and socially. So now untouchability is a serious offense. Untouchability means looking down upon someone. If you consider someone inferior to you just because he belongs to a lower caste, or if you consider someone a pollutant or untouchable, it is a serious offense, it is a punishable offense. So once again I cover right to equality. Right to equality states that everyone is equal in the eyes of law. All citizens have equal job opportunities when it comes to government jobs. However, certain seats are reserved for SC, ST and OBC to compensate for all those years they have been discriminated. Untouchability is a serious offense. Untouchability means considering someone pollutant or looking down upon someone. Now, the second is right against exploitation. It has 3 dimensions. Right against exploitation means nobody should be exploited. Exploited in a sense that that person has been maltreated or that person has been given ill treatment just because he is not very powerful, like children. Child labor is a serious offense. No child below the age of 14 years can be compelled or can be made to work, especially in hazardous places like bangle factory, mine factory, etc. It has been noticed in the past that factories recruited children to save the cost, as children demanded less of wages or they were not paid any wages at all and they were made to work in the factories, and In the Bangle factories, children are made to work in very dingy or in very dark rooms, which adversely affects their eyes. Most of them lost their eyes by the time they grew up. And many had been made to work in the cracker factory or the cigarette factory or even mines. Mines are prone to fire hazards. So, the government has come up with child labor as a serious offense under Right Against Exploitation. No child below the age of 14 years must be forced or made to work, especially in hazardous places like Bangle factory, railways, mines, etc. They should be educated so that we have a brighter future. Now, Begari. Begari means bonded labor. Many countries force the people to work like slaves, where they were given little wages or no wages, and they were never allowed to return to their families. Even the Britishers practiced this. This had been a practice in European countries where the Africans were made bonded laborers. This is again a serious offense under Right Against Exploitation. Then, human trafficking. Human trafficking means selling and buying of human beings, especially women and children, for immoral purposes. Immoral purposes mean women is molested or the children are made to beg to meet the greed of a few, and this is again a serious offense. So, Right Against Exploitation covers child labor, which is a serious offense. No child below the age of 14 years must be made to work, and they must not be made to work in hazardous places like Bangle factory, mines, etc. In fact, they should be imparted education. Begari. Begari means bonded labor. You cannot make someone work like a slave and not give him any salary, any wage. This is a serious offense. And then human trafficking. Human trafficking means buying and selling of human beings, especially women and children, for immoral purposes. Right to freedom of religion. Right to freedom of religion is same as secularism. That means our country has no official religion. Everyone has the right to follow a religion of his/her choice. Even a citizen can claim that he does not believe in any religion, and the government does not interfere in our religious practices until and unless our religious practices intervene or interfere with any kind of fundamental right. That means if in the name of religion, say we force a woman, we compel a woman to commit sati, then you are violating the fundamental right, the other fundamental right, and hence the government is allowed to interfere. But if your religious practices do not infringe or violate any fundamental right of a citizen, then the government does not interfere. In fact, government has been so supportive over the years to help us ceremonize our religious practices. Now, the next is cultural and educational rights. There are certain groups who are in minority in India. India is a land of diversity. We have to respect each and every group, be it the group in majority or minority. Now, there are people who are in minority, or there are groups who are in minority, and they might feel insecure. They might be insecure that their coming generation might not learn their cultural and values. Their culture might get eroded, and the fear that they might not be able to pass on their rich culture and heritage to the coming generation. And to help them get rid of these insecurities, government allows them, the constitution allows them to preserve their language, culture, etc. Minorities have the right to preserve their language, culture, etc. And how do they do that? For this, they may administer any educational institution. For example, madrasas are there where the children are given Islamic education, and besides this, they are also given modern education. So, minorities can administer educational institutions where they teach about their culture and they also give education. In such institution, seats are reserved for that minority group. So, in case of cultural and educational rights, minorities have the right to preserve their language, culture, etc. And for this purpose, they can administer educational institutions where they impart modern education along with their culture, heritage and language, so as to pass on their rich culture, language, heritage to the next generation. However, in government institutions, no admission shall be denied on the basis of language, culture, traditions, etc. Now, the next right is right to freedom. Right to freedom has various dimensions and new dimensions have been added to it. Let's see how. Freedom of speech and expression. We have the right to express our opinion. We can also express our disapproval against the government policies. Then we have the freedom to form unions and associations. The workers have the right to form trade unions and to raise their voices against the unjust treatment meted to them. Everyone has the right to assemble peacefully without arms. Do you remember Jallianwala Bagh? There also the people assembled without arms. However, General Dyer ordered the army to open fire on the innocent people. This is not so under the constitution. We have the right to assemble peacefully without arms and discuss our views and opinions. We have the right to move or go anywhere in India and we can settle in any part of the country. We can move to any part of the country and we can settle in any part of the country. So, right to freedom has various dimensions. Let's see, we have freedom of speech and expression. We can express our opinion against the government also, but then it has to be in a very systematic manner such that it does not provoke the people or instigate them to be violent. Then we have the freedom to form unions and associations. Various trade unions are formed so that each group is given fair treatment. We can assemble peacefully without arms and we have the right to move or go anywhere in India and we can settle in any part of the country as per our choice. Recently, right to education and right to information have been incorporated under right to freedom. This has made our Indian constitution wholesome and ensured overall development of the citizens. Now, let's see what is right to education. Right to education means all the children of the age group 6 to 18 years have the right to receive free and compulsory education. For this, the government has come up with various schools where the children are given education and they're also provided with free midday meals to cater to their nutritional requirement and at the same time to improve their attendance. So, midday meal is another initiative which has been taken by the government to impart education to the children, to break the shackles of poverty, hunger, unemployment, etc., to overcome these challenges and to help India become a developed nation. India is still a developing nation. To make India a developed nation, education to one and all is essential and mandatory. Right to information. Now, everyone has the right to seek information on the expenses of government, how the government or its institution works. We can apply for right to information online and information has to be catered to us within 30 days. If it's very critical, then the information has to be provided to us within 48 hours. However, government may deny information if it's related to some secret or scientific mission, but otherwise the government has to provide information on the expenses, from where it has raised, how it has raised money through the various taxes or any other source, and how it has been spent. This has helped to bring right to information, has helped to curb corruption and to ensure transparency. This has increased the accountability of the government. That is, government is more answerable to us after right